Hey, welcome to Public Access TV Writing, where I walk myself through the process of writing a first draft of a pilot script in front of you for our mutual benefit. That last part's more of a hope than a promise. Today we're rapping about log lines. I find the process of creating a log line always leaves me bereft. I always think I'm building a temple of imagination, but it often turns out that I've just been piling up vibes, and a man cannot live under vibes alone. The log line makes a fool of me, which is why I can't recommend enough that you saddle up, settle in, log on, and log line. Trial by fire, let's go! I didn't think of the theme song before I started. Log lines are a sentence, sometimes two, but best case scenario one, that delivers the most vital and intriguing parts of your show so that people beg you to sit them down and explain every weird little detail. It's theoretically a sales pitch, but more immediately for me and our purposes at least, a log line is the crucible through which you mash all your gooey, airy notions of what your show is going to be to see if they can withstand the cold hammer of real form. Throat's a little fucked. Today I'm pulling from, / blatantly ripping off, Ken Miyamoto's article, How to Craft the Perfect TV Series Logline on Screencraft.com, and 10 Steps to a Great Logline from slugthelines.blogspot.com. I miss you, Blogspot. Links are in the description. Miyamoto starts with a general logline structure that identifies 4 key elements of a story. When inciting incident occurs, a character type must objective before stakes. I'm not going to worry too much about the words in between. I'm just going to look at those 4 elements in some example loglines. The first of which is going to be Liz Lemon, head writer of the sketch comedy show TGS with Tracy Jordan, must deal with an arrogant new boss and a crazy new star while trying to run a successful television show without losing her mind. Character types. We got a few in here. We got a beleaguered head writer. We got an arrogant boss. We got a crazy star. All of these fit nicely under the umbrella of people you expect to find in showbiz, baby. Inciting incident. That arrogant boss? That crazy star? They're new. We're getting the inciting incident inside of our character types, and it's not massive or flashy, but it's the reason that our story starts where it does. That's efficient, and I tip my hat to you, professional writers who I aspire to be. Objective, dealing with boss and star while trying to run a successful television show. Week in and week out, Liz is the one who's got to keep the wheels on this thing. Stakes, oh, I don't know. Just her sanity? So 30 Rock's logline is checking all the boxes. But let's in fact go a little bit deeper here because consarn it, if there isn't in fact more than just 4 things to worry about when it comes to loglines. Number 5 is going to be compelling characters. Compelling characters, aka characters we want to watch, are compelled. They have a deep desire or want to do a thing, but what specifically compels Liz to try and make this show? On one level, she's the head writer, so we can say it's her job and that she's compelled by responsibility. But she's also invested to the point that she risks losing her mind. That, to me, says that the job gives her a sense of purpose, or that ultimately, she loves it. So some mix of responsibility, purpose, and passion inside of her demands that she deliver this show no matter what. As for the other characters mentioned in the logline, crazy could kind of mean anything, but arrogant people are generally driven by their egos, so we're getting a little slice of what compels Liz's opposition as well. So in his article, Miyamoto talks about highlighting if you're setting your show in an intriguing world. The thrust of his point being that shows set further outside of everyday life have been getting more popular, and a really intriguing world might give you a leg up in attracting industry attention. I'm totally down with that, but why did I write the phrase, I'm totally down with that? I don't think that means if your show is a more normcore setting, you shouldn't bother trying to paint a bit of a picture in your logline. So I'm going to use specific world, because I also think that the more specific you get with your world, the more intriguing it is regardless of whether it's a post-apocalyptic submarine or a Subway sandwich shop. And we're in luck because one of the 30 Rock logline strengths is how much info about the world is packed into one sentence. It's showbiz, but it's a specific corner of showbiz, the behind the scenes of an acronym sketch show a la Saturday Night Live. We know the show is successful, which means it's established, which is different than a world where it was fledgling or struggling. And we know that it is a very stressful work environment because it threatens to drive Liz insane. Antagonist or antagonizing force. Who stands in the way of what Liz is compelled to do? That dang arrogant boss and that crazy star. If you watch the show, you know both that there are a lot more antagonists in Liz's way than just those two, and that as time goes goes on, these antagonists are just as likely to be trying to help Liz than get in her way. But they are the initial antagonists, and they stand in well as totems for the kind of problems that Liz will deal with for the purposes of this logline. But hey, there are 1 million TV shows. Why'd I pick this one to look at? Something I think my show and 30 Rock have in common is that the lead has a consistent goal. Liz always has to make sure that the show goes on. In my show, Doug wants recognition for his artificial intelligence breakthrough. But while Liz always manages to get the show on the air, Doug's relationship with his goal is that he never gets it. So let's look at a show like that. Michael! Level-headed son Michael Bluth takes over family affairs after his father is imprisoned, but the rest of his spoiled, dysfunctional family are making his job unbearable. Character types: a spoiled, dysfunctional family, an assumably also spoiled, dysfunctional father in prison, and a level-headed son who's different from the rest. Overall, I would say these characters all fit under the familiar umbrella of the badly behaved rich. Inciting incident: Daddy goes to jail. Objective: manage the family affairs. Stakes: the stakes here are not as clear as 30 Rock, and I'll talk about this more in a minute, but I'd argue that by stepping into his father's shoes, Michael is engaging his sense of responsibility, which his family makes unbearable for him to fulfill. Unbearable doesn't mean hard to bear, it means you cannot bear it. So it seems like the stakes are that Michael is either going to lose a fundamental piece of himself by folding his sense of responsibility in the face of his family's opposition, or he'll lose his family. Compelling characters. What compels Michael according to this logline? Well, he's taking over the family affairs after his father goes to prison. Presumably, up until now, his father was taking care of said affairs. We know Michael is level-headed and his family is dysfunctional, so he's probably the best person for the job. Sounds like responsibility to me. Maybe even some love mixed in. Loving your family, after all, isn't uncommon, but it's not mentioned. Let's stick to the facts. We've got a guy stepping into his father's shoes, tale as old as time, and we have the rest of the family standing in his way. What's compelling them? Well, we know they're spoiled, and when you're spoiled, it tends to mean that you've gotten a lot and you still want a whole lot more. And you tend not to take it very well if anyone gets in your way. So we don't know exactly what they're after, but we have a sense that they're very compelled to get it. And I want to zoom out here a bit and talk about what gets included in a logline and what doesn't. I watched Arrested Development, and if you watched it too, you know that what I've just said about what compels Michael is far from all that compels him. Michael's not just level-headed, which is how he's described here. He's not only compelled by responsibility and love, which is what I've inferred, he's also compelled at various times by pride, vanity, and lust. He can be selfish, self-righteous, entitled. And let's not forget his son, who uses both as his moral North Star and as an excuse for his bad behavior. He can, in his own more understated way, be just as bad as the rest of his family. Specific world. Arrested Development is a family sitcom. There have been a million before it, and there will come a million after. So what do we know about the world of this family? We know they're rich, because if they were lower or middle class, Michael would be taking the reins of the family business. Affairs, in this context, is a rich person's word. Their assumed wealth is bolstered by the fact that they're spoiled, and we can assume their wealth has corrupted them because not only are they spoiled, but they're dysfunctional. And since Michael didn't need to take the reins until his dad went to jail, we can assume that we're in a world with a power or a control vacuum. Basically, it sounds like the world has been f***ed up, and now it's even more f***ed up. That's specific, that's good TV. Antagonist or antagonizing force. Michael's family are making his attempt at responsibility unbearable. He is level-headed, and they are dysfunctional, and so they will punish him for being different. It's clear, it's classic. The call is coming from inside of the house. 30 Rock and Arrested Development are both half-hour sitcoms situated around a protagonist trying to corral a bunch of unruly freaks into behaving sane just long enough to get something done that is usually in those same freaks' own interests. But in their log lines, Liz Lemon is trying to run a successful show without losing her mind. Liz's sanity is in play. She hasn't won or lost yet. Tune in to see if she can pull it off. In Arrested Development's logline, Michael is not trying to convince his family that he's the best person to manage the family affairs. He has taken them over. And his dysfunctional family is making his job unbearable. In this language, I think we see a reflection of how 30 Rock is a show where at the end of each episode, Liz is triumphant, and in Arrested Development, any win by Michael will inevitably and usually quite quickly be undercut by his family. Liz has the agency of getting to try. Michael is doing something and his family family is standing in the way. Rock and hard place. The logline lets us know that unlike Liz Lemon, Michael Bluth is a tragic figure doomed to be crushed between his sense of responsibility and his family that refuses to change. Now we're gonna look at my loglines. Oh no, they're bad! Here are two versions. When an egotistical community college computer science teacher creates artificial life, he discovers that the world is far less interested than he assumed, and that rather than making him a star, this new rambunctious life form is making his life hell. Log 2. The egotistical inventor of a sentient AI hunts for fame and fortune while struggling to maintain the cooperation of the rambunctious new life he's created in an increasingly self-absorbed world. Inciting incident. In logline 1, it's creating artificial life. In logline 2, it's not present. I haven't talked about this yet, but I've never seen the creation of A1 as the inciting incident for the show. I don't want to start at the very start, so to speak, where you've got to show Doug saying, oh wow, I did it, and they're meeting each other, etc. I want to jump in with A1 and Doug's relationship well established, with the familiarity and the friction of two people who are not aligned. I don't think the show is Doug finding out that he isn't about to be celebrated as the next Edison. I think that when we meet Doug, he's already wallowing in that reality. I want Doug to see Elon Musk on TV talking about AI and throw a slice of pizza at the screen and yell, I already did that! I want to get to the fun part. What is my show's new boss? What is my Daddy Goes to Jail? Character type. In logline 1, we have egotistical community college computer science teacher, which is way too many words. And in log 2, we have egotistical inventor. In both, we have a rambunctious new life form. So something we've seen in the examples is that oftentimes the intriguing world is introduced or clarified in the character type. With 30 Rock, we have head writer Liz, an arrogant boss, and crazy star. All people that help us flesh out this behind-the-scenes showbiz world. With Arrested Development, we have level-headed Michael, a patriarch who's been sent to prison, and a spoiled, dysfunctional family. These character types work to flesh out this world of the badly behaved rich that the show takes place in. The characters in my loglines, whether inventor or college prof, and the AI in both of them, do not really point us towards the world this show is going to take place in. Are they in the suburbs or in a city? Are they spending their days working birthday parties to make rent, or are they trying to sneak into tech job fairs to impress middle managers? We don't know, and you know why? Because I don't know. But knowing you don't know is the first step on a long journey to knowing. Also, an egotistical academic and a rambunctious life form are potentially at odds, but not expressly so. I could choose better descriptors to more clearly establish the conflict. Objective. In logline 1, it's making him a star, which goes back to my point about establishing a specific world. He's a college prof who wants to be a big star. Stardom isn't really in the same world as college prof. He should want to be recognized by his peers or seen as a thought leader or heralded as the next Edison or scholastic stuff. Something brainy, scholarly. It's not even that a college prof can't want to be a star, it's that for the purpose of this one sentence, everything needs to be aligned to give us as much information about the world and the character as it can. And this character description with this objective just leaves us with more questions than really filling in any blanks. In logline 2, he's hunting for fame and fortune while struggling to maintain the AI's cooperation. These words are probably all wrong, but I actually think I'm closer to the mark with the dual nature of these objectives, because while I've always painted A1 as very rosy in my character descriptions, something I've been thinking about is, what does A1 think about Doug's goal? There's a tension between A1 being very pleasant and wanting everything to be very sunshine and rainbows, and A1, for the purpose of this show, having to be at cross purposes with Doug. It's kind of too easy if they're aligned. That's just not really how shows work. Doug having to balance his goal for recognition for his achievement with the feelings and desires of the thing he achieved because A1, his sort of prize-winning science experiment, is alive, has feelings, right? That feels like the show. So, gonna try and drill down there. Stakes. In logline 1, I say that the new life form is making his life hell. There's so much not working right now that I don't actually feel like I can even assess whether or not that's a reasonable stake because I don't know what's behind it really. In logline 2, I don't have stakes so much as I have the tension between these two objectives that I just talked about. Specific world. I think I covered where I'm at with specific world in character types. On one hand, it would be easier to say he's a college prof, so this all takes place primarily on a campus. But then I don't know how he stretches for his goal of getting recognized for creating A1 if that's where the show lives. Maybe it's possible, but I don't see it right now. So I'm looking for a world pretty hard right now. Shout out to Logline 2's finish in an increasingly self-absorbed world, which is not a world, that's just words. I think I was going for like a, he's self-absorbed. How ironic that no one else is paying attention to him, the thing he wants, because everyone else is self-absorbed. Whoa. But even if that's the route that I go, I'd still have to put it in more solid terms. It can't be a self-absorbed world. It's gotta be a self-absorbed ice cream parlor. Shit, I gotta go to work. Compelling characters. Boy, I'll tell you what's not compelling. The sentence, he discovers that the world is far less interested than he assumed. I've already talked about the link between the character types and the unique world, and looking more into how A1's desires shouldn't align so much with Doug's. And I think if I can get that down, a lot more compelling characters will come out of that dynamic. Antagonist or antagonistic force. It's A1, but it's also the lack of validation, which needs to be more solidly personified either by a person or an institution. I haven't defined it well in this logline, so no surprise, it's not terribly clear. So as promised, I have been undone by the logline exercise. It's a little embarrassing to admit that when I sat down to work on my logline, I knew it'd be tough, but I thought I had more of it fleshed out. I thought I'd get to a place that was a little more complete. But as I mentioned off the top, I always go in confident and I always leave broken. It is at this point deeply a part of my process. And now I have the next set of questions that I need to answer. What is the world this is set in that allows Doug to pursue this goal? How can I get him close, but not close enough to what he wants so that his struggle and his story are compelling? Who personifies the broad lack of recognition for what Doug has done? If this story isn't starting with A1's creation, where does it start? What does A1 think of Doug's goal? Does he overtly oppose it? Or is there some part of his fundamental character that always gets in the way? And there's more, but we'll just start with 4 questions to answer. So this has all been geared towards what I'm working on, but if you're working on something and you don't have a logline yet, I'd recommend looking at the loglines of shows that are similar to not only your show in terms of format, like whether it's a workplace comedy or a dramedy or a drama or a procedural or what have you, but also similar in setting, in themes, in what the characters are after or what the characters are struggling with. IMDb generally uses the show's logline as a description on its page, but some of them are weird or bad and added to the list of things that I don't know. But what I do know is that if you're working on something, you should keep it the f*** up. Love ya. See you next time. I'm gonna go eat. If you watched this entire video, and in fact are still watching as I sort of try and toss all of the bad log lines out of my head until all that remains is potentially a good log line, then I may as well say, do you want to like and subscribe? Because boy oh boy, the smallest amount of support means a frankly embarrassing amount to me. So you know how it is, we're all on the internet.